wait for questions from the audience, I would like to find out. We've talked about the services industries a lot. For people in manufacturing companies, there has been unprecedented dent on supply chain as a result of this pandemic. What kind of measures can they put in place to actually have formidable business continuity plans that ensures continuity in periods like this, when they can assess their factories or stuff like that? What do you think can be the options out here? Michael, do you want to take that?
I'll be brief.
If you don't mind, I would like to
maybe like manufacturing companies and all that. Okay, carry on.
Okay, great. So for me, it's a couple of large manufacturing and even some small medium sized light manufacturing players we're kind of ready when it comes to the Nigerian context. So for instance, what our local content, some of our local content drive in recent years had been doing wasn't enough, but had been kind of built capacity for local content suppliers. So for a lot of people who had some of their supply chain that were coming from out of the country, and there was a sudden block, there was that seamless, somewhat seamless handshake with local substitutes. But going forward, it should no longer be seen. Such should no longer be seen as a local content drive where organizations in manufacturing utilize 20 to 30% of their input from local suppliers and the rest of the 70% from international markets. It should now be seen not just as we are doing right by our country by promoting local content. It should now be seen and adopted as a business continuity strategy, where in the situation where there's an all-out war, the situation where we see an immediate repeat of this pandemic and then the lockdowns of transport and logistics, they have a failover locally to continue the supplies to their business. Also, in terms of other vendors, local suppliers, setting some redundancy in place is also key, where you have, for every material you supply, you have 2 or 3 alternatives. So just in case one also depends on international logistics to either finish off a product for supply, you have other ones that you can rely on. So being able to have options locally, particularly, is key towards effective business continuity.
Okay, that's fine.
Hello. I don't know. I think I would like to add to that question you asked, if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Hussein Yakubu. I'm the MD of Lekifin Limited. We actually offer a solution that I think address that challenge that most suppliers have. And I think the major issue is lack of finance within the supply chain part. We've seen a lot of instances where suppliers supplied and then getting monies during the lockdown period became an issue. And then they also borrowed money, and it was really a bad situation most suppliers found themselves during this period. What I would have suggested would have been, let organizations look at options for what I call supply chain finance, where suppliers can be paid ahead of their invoice maturity date at a discounted rate. And then that would have solved a lot of payment delays issues that we found ourselves during this period. So I think supply chain finance will have done a lot to reduce the hardship for both the suppliers and also some of the buyers too, because at the end of the day, they also need to pay these funds, and the supply chain will also give them options of making those payments on their behalf to their suppliers. So I think supply chain finance will have really helped the supply chain during this period. Thank you.
So a very real thing, because I was in my spare time while not working from organization or while working from home, we had to also double up and put our efforts into what the government was doing to alleviate the suffering that the pandemic brought around. So I was involved with the food drive, the food drive, and you would not believe that, the initial grains that came out from the Lagos state government had been stored. Some had been stored for over 10 years, up to 10 years. In some in good condition, some were not so in good condition. So in the near future, as you rightly pointed out, that logistics, the supply chain, and everything that comes around that, which includes storage, transportation, forwarding, processing, will be a massive area for people who are looking to invest in the agro space, going forward. So things like being able to stabilize tomato pastes and package them and keep them for, because the government, all state governments, including the federal government, must have food banks in times of crisis. So if you are able to do this and store on a long-term basis, there is an entire business line there for people to go into, and that is the government. That is one of the government's, from a food perspective. That's one of the government's continuity plan. I won't call it business or government or citizen continuity plan. That is one of their own strategies.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Emeka, I think there's still more questions from the audience. Somebody says, in addition, do economic and political risk analysis of the countries in which our suppliers are located reduce over-dependence on a single supplier and particular location, reevaluate contract structures? Okay, these are some of the things that have just addressed in terms of the supply chain disruption and the opportunities therein, where somebody who can provide adequate backups, alternatives in that space sees a huge opportunity. Okay, we would like to take parting shots from panelists if there are no more questions from the audience.
Mr. Femi, there's a question we didn't answer.
You want to start?
Yeah, there's a question we didn't answer on how can we effectively plan in an unstable economy. Putting in contingency plans might also be unrealistic. And let me take that question. Let me answer that. How can we effectively plan in an unstable economy? And my response to this is, that is actually the reason why we need to plan. And when you plan with scenarios. So if you're looking at part of your contingency planning, which is the whole point of continuity of business, is that you say, whether you're a small company or a big company, at the beginning of the year, you say to yourself, what could go wrong? That is what the continuity of business, but that's the reason we're here. Continuity of business after a disaster, or in this case, where the disaster is a pandemic. So what could go wrong? Interest rates could move against you. Exchange rates could move against you. Government policies could change. So if you're a company, you say to yourself, where are my areas of risk? Am I going to import this year? If what I'm importing, is it possible that government could ban it? If they do, what do we do next? Can I replace that locally? If I'm importing, the current rate is maybe 360 at the beginning of the year. Could it be 500 later? And your contingency plan would therefore have scenarios. What will I do if this happens? So even if you're a small business, even if it's something simple you're doing, you say to yourself, this is what I want to do in 2020, and then take each action point and say, what are the external influences on my decisions? What could happen, and what would I do in that event? I hope I've been able to answer that very quickly. That is exactly what you are planning for. We are in, well, I don't know, yes, an unstable economy if you look at what has happened. Therefore, you need to have been able to, in advance, project what adverse situations could happen during the year and what you would do in that in the event that it occurs.
Go ahead and contribute, please. Ugo Dre, Obichuku. He has indicated
Yeah,
to
can you hear
contribute.
me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thanks so much, Femi, for allowing me to contribute. I've been listening for about an hour now, and quite an engaging session. I just wanted to contribute in the area of digital identity and diversifying your business. So I think that for a lot of SMEs, what COVID-19 and even events of the last 2 years has basically shown is that that there's nothing like a single form business. So you just can't be a business, for example, that just does one. So imagine you're a supermarket and you think that all you do is just sell thing in your store, and that is enabled by digital identity. So if you have a way of storing your customer information, of course, within ambits of the law, storing your customer information, your customer habits and patterns and likes, then you can basically turn those customers, into points of sale for anything that you exactly want to do. So imagine if you own a travel agency and you have maybe 50 or 100 customers that cater to you. These are the same customers that would typically buy fashion items. These are the same customers that would typically buy food items. These are the same customers that would want to listen to webinars. I mean, so they're customers and they all have different needs. So they're points of sale for different items, and with that kind of information, you can basically just turn your business model into some kind of utility business. And to give you a cue, the likes of MTN, even commercial banks, they've started doing that already. So that is why today you see a GT bank that is actually a traditional bank going into organizing fashion events or organizing food fairs. Why do you think they're doing that? At the end of the day, they have these customers, and these customers do not only like banking. These customers have other needs. So what the bank is trying to do is they've seen these customers. For example, the bank knows the customers that spends most of its money on fashion items. So these are the kind of customers that they will invite to their food fair. And then when they come to their food fair, they come with other customers. And that basically, helps GT Bank expand its customer base. So something similar is what MTN is doing. MTN doesn't only sell recharge cards. MTN also is into power. MTN does a lot more things than just the traditional telco business. So a lot of small businesses need to start to do that now, because you encounter a lot of customers along the way. But how many small businesses actually have data on their customers? Somebody comes and buys things from you and you don't even have their phone number, you don't have their address, you don't have their social media handles. So how do you continue to sweat that asset that you have? So that's just my contribution. I think that is something that we need to flog. Businesses need to move a lot more towards digital identity. That way they can always expand their product offering. So thanks a lot for having me talk.
Thank you very much, Hugo. No doubt about